Bonjour à toutes et à tous.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this workshop that will be moderated by Crowdstrike and the IPERIA group. Franck Perrier is by my side. Sébastien will join us on the stage. He's the tech director of Trot de France. We'll talk today about a topic that is really important to us. Protection for ID attacks in real time. So we'll first talk about the identity at the core of the current threats. We'll illustrate this with a couple of examples of attacks that took place in the past month, and then I'll give the floor to Frank, who will tell us about his experience. Please feel free to ask questions at the end of the session. We'll keep some time especially for that. And we're hoping that you'll enjoy this presentation. First, Crowdstrike is a leader in the cybersecurity arena, specialized in PPEDR with a native cloud system. And with the evolution of our systems that would enable to react really really fast on different issues related to antivirus problematics. Well, we've been working on different infrastructures, also working with the telemetric possibilities related to AI. So with regard to different possible cyber attacks, also working on the ID processions, and that is part of the major threats. Today we also talked about the security and the reliability, always with one main line, always working with the same agent, even if we can add up different types of modules from our portfolio without having to go through any issues. Same thing with the console. Whenever we talked about attack vectors through a mailbox, a working station, networks, authentication, the capacity to overcome the cyber threats rely on your understanding of the issue, who's attacking, why, and how. You can take pretty much any scenario on the DDoS. At some point, several organizations are preparing an attacks, and they're doing it jointly. So in order to solve the issue, you need to understand the threat first before being able to implement any solutions. With regard to the ID part, I'll share a couple of statistics with you from different independent entities, cyber analysts that are analyzing the data of our clients in order to be better prepared to respond to any possible threats. What you need to know is that there's always an initial step, and in all attack chains there'll be this idea of user ID passwords escalating that will allow the complete or partial authentication, and that will enable several different lateral moves. And you can be sure that at some point there's always a notification or process that will be used. The hacker groups have, the most efficient one, have understood that the first steps of an attack would take time, and that it was a real job in itself. and that those steps were hard to organize if not an expert. So what they do now, to make things easier, they do work with a marketplace system to go directly where they'll have a maximum of impact with the initial one or the final one planned. This is quite efficient. They are all very well organized, and we've seen a rise of the ID stealing processes through taking place through in the dark web, and in order to enter through valid credentials within companies. And they have systems that are only made for that, with specific session cookies, ID, passwords, and that they would actually sell to the next user and would be able to reach and access all the privileges and let them free to organize any malicious actions within a company. And their modus operandi is pretty much always the same. It could be through a collector, and would manage to get into one of the working stations with those specific IDs and passwords, and that would be able to exfiltrate on the collecting platform in order to make them available on the cyber criminal market. 80% of the problem whenever it comes to the ID within the company, well, it's been confirmed by our ID intelligence services within Crowdstrike. 4 attacks on 5 have been succeeding throughout the credential stealing, and this is used to deploy afterwards and within the company. And we're EDR providers, and in order to be protected from all of what I've just mentioned, well, I can already tell you that this is not enough. Being virtual or physical, you need to understand what happens in terms of systems. If, for instance, I would try to set up a specific system for a specific surveillance system in my working station, well, of course there'll be alarms, but I wouldn't be able to be warned beforehand about this threats. So, which means that I can pretend that I can fake that I'm part of the company, and the EDR will never be able to detect it. The only way is to get into the databases in order to check the authentication behaviors, in order to determine what are the privileged accounts, how they're used, what is the power map in terms of privileges, and if we have malicious or valid behaviors. So we're talking about specific attacks. You can use all EDRs that are available to you, and this you won't be protected. You can be protected against the tools, but not from anything that is actually valid. Now illustrating different attack techniques, we'll talk about our threatening intelligence research engine, and I'll show you what we've been observing in the past 12 years. We've just launched the last version for 2023 a few weeks ago. I'll invite you to take a look at this, but we'll get back to it. Our CrowdStrike team discovered 77,000 intrusion were discovered which is a lot. I mean, we were able to detect them, so we were able to block them, but just, the number speaks volume. 112% of rising in terms of excess brokers' activities, and this figure will rise again. About the discovered intrusions, well, 12% of those intrusions were discovered with valid accounts. So here we're talking about a password that would not be robust enough. Uber, the Uber company had to pay a lot because he happened to be the victim of one of these intrusions. Now, speaking about development, we're no longer in the malware era. We are in the no-file access, which means that it gives the possibility to the intruder to do whatever he wants when that takes place. Now the intruders have become a lot more intelligent and this cannot only be protected by a series of files. And there's another type of intrusion. Well, he'll create new accounts pretty much right away because he's aware that the ideas that he was able to crack up, well, won't last forever. So he will penetrate and intrude other accounts with other identities using the same system, and it actually works pretty well. Lastly, something we blocked with one of our biggest French client. Well, so it happens with valid accounts, so stolen account, a broken account. We do know that the ID and the password was totally valid. So creation of a new account in order to be able to carry out manipulation of accounts with very important rights. And then with the final objective to access the else process directory. And the hacker will access this this directory to get any information he needs to continue his work. So these type of attacks have been classified, but again, it always starts with a valid account. If you're not using a specific technology for the directory, then there's nothing you can do. I will now give the floor to my friend Franck, who will let us know about his experience in the ID protection arena. Hello. I'm Franck Perriot, and I'm the security director for the INCYBER group. And well, in France, what we have to know is that in Belgium and in Germany, we're specialized in some specific services with this idea of ownership. We have a lot of clients to protect, and we need to deliver on a daily basis. So I'll let you know about how this works. So we mentioned the Active Directory, which is an asset that allows a lot of risks analysis, and it remains very criticized, a very essential asset. Whenever you cannot authentify yourself, and if you have cyber criminals that took over the authentication system, then it's really an element that comes handy and that is important in a company like. I remember when I worked at INCYBER Group, we were a bit under 10,000 5 years ago, and today we're 18,000. So we are, we tend to get bigger over the time, and we're trying to solve different types of instances of that regard. And we have different types of approach with different teams. Sometimes you do work with the subcontractors that works himself with several companies. So it's not always very simple to decide on governance rules. But it's always about checking if things are being applied in a duly fashion or not. And it is a bit of an old system. I think it was created in the year 2000, and I was a part of the the pioneers. But it's really has become a part of the legacy. And again, I mean, things have evolved a lot, and we have been able to create new possibilities, because those ones were definitely not enough, with special Java layers, for instance. And you have a whole of info system that is trusted with the directory that is critical in order to identify all collaborators, and also because, we always have this example that, all systems had been protected, and we know how dangerous those attacks are. So again, there's been a continuation of different systems in order to always update our efficiency. And of course, the company where I work have been working on a lot of systems, ULM, Kerberos, ELDAP. It's possible to understand a lot of things just by listening to the network. So it's something quite complicated. I'm not sure how many people here do understand how it works from the inside. But what is for sure is that we have hackers, and we had to have experts working on this new ways of behaving. When it comes to the Windows authentications, for instance, with the IR and the different forced sessions that are accessible only with the passwords, with the golden ticket. Well, and the hackers use this to take over in terms of control. That's a bit like the pen test. Well, this protective tool need to understand the authentication flaws. So what did we do with all of this? And this is our reality on a daily basis. We have critical IT systems that are always at risk because they evolve in a constantly evolving ecosystem. Now, there are three different pillars when it comes to that. We'll try to work on best practices and take advice from subcontractors or new structures we just acquired. But it's not always easy to design an elaborate IT hygiene. Sometimes we can do it, but sometimes it's not so easy, because there's also the human factor coming into play in all of this. So the idea basically was to go further, a step further than the policies that are not always applied. Shouldn't I try and raise awareness with our admins in terms of the visibility of the health state of the directories, on the IT management, and the admin use of these accounts, And that's a bit of a naive attitude. I remember having deployed a special radar for that, but nevertheless, it remains a second-class defense tool. This is, and so we're always running short of time because things are evolving so fast. But at least it allows us to understand the type of behavior and the type of approach we can take. We're one of the first one to create these Crowdstrike identity protection, but I like the name of it, because it means what it means, really. And you also talked about the second approach, the detection approach, with user cases, I think, with people specialized in AD, which means that we're also focusing on the different behaviors. And in these instances, well, that allows, to catch the different identifications. And I remember in October 2018 or 19, when I saw that tool coming, I wasn't very convinced. But when you come to understand that you have a system working on the specifications, I remember using Guardian for years. What was interesting in this is that there was this agent, and it gives you more power than with the DBA, which means that you can have control over it. And with Crowdstrike identity protection, you can actually adopt a protection posture. It's, you won't be able to use it outside of a very specific case. If it's used outside of these machines, then the authentication is denied. So for people that do master these apps, it's possible to get your way around. And it's possible to protect some of those elements. And beyond the hygiene factor, it provides you with the detection possibilities. We were talking about the golden tickets a while ago, and that's quite frightening, when you work on the defense side. When you carry out the tests, I thought that it was, quite interesting, quite promising. What else did we do? I'll try and see how things, and show you how things have evolved from the on-prem era, and that started in 2019-20, and then we worked on the hygiene control. Sometimes you have very smart admin people that accumulate a lot of administrators in there, and you end up with thousands of them, and it becomes very dangerous. Typically with the Crowdstrike, you get all the privilege. You have the possibility to gather all the privileged accounts and to access them very easily. But a privileged account could also be a backup operator. I think it's the way it's called. He can carry out brute enforcement. I'm pretty sure you've been facing one of these situations before. And when you carry out several times these type of exercise, then that it gets enriched, with the time. you also have possibilities to use the API, and this is pretty much how we started. Then the COVID era started around 2020, and I remember that we received a lot of alerts. My bosses were really worried about that. And well, we decided to give a response and to address this with the different blockages, possibilities, functionalities. Which led us to deploy MFA really quickly for different authentication processes, which means that the VMOR then could have a possibility to react. What I also meant to say is that you don't need to set up a specific agent, because once you have the latter, then it's possible for you to control the rest. But that means that according to the context, you can adapt your protection. So this is what we've done, but sometimes some of our clients didn't want to use the phone to do so, and well, after a while, the YubiKey management was too complicated, so we had to act differently. My friend Thierry developed the Okta integration for the multi-factor aspect. And this is, carrying out cryptanalysis exercises that we managed to progress. And, learn by doing. We had realized that beyond the awareness and the statistic, we needed to adopt a more coercive approach, and that had to go through the over-security processes, and just checking closely on the hygiene part, and just by doing exercises, by carrying out exercises, we managed to get to a point where we realized that, in terms of password, we needed to make a couple of transformations. And in these cases, well, that comes handy to be able to use special directories. And, with Crowdstrike, it's very easily to force a password change. We've been able to demonstrate this with the people that were carrying out the test and check the robustness of those passwords. So they can really be complicated, but they need to in order to face those attacks. And then in July last year, and that is really an added value for Crowdstrike, we were on-prem, and we could only protect VPN connections. Trusts were forbidden. But just adopting the cloud approach meant that the whole architecture dealing with all of this was no longer in the data center, but it would give you the possibility to have the control on everything that would happen. And that's pretty much a similar concept to the EDR, where you can see everything that is taking place. So this is pretty much what we've been doing. and we have a huge acquisition activity going on, and we're trying to develop as much as possible all the agents. Also on Azure and Office 365 that help you, that provide you more visibility. And that helps in terms of authentication protection. Thank you very much. We have 1 or 2 minutes for questions. We're ready for any comments. We'll also be available at the Crowdstrike alley.
Microphone inaudible. We cannot hear the questions. So at Crowdstrike, we have one sole agent, but we do not have one sole function. You can have an agent focusing solely on identity in your infrastructure. This is an independent solution, and the same goes for my neighbor. I'm working on it. No more questions, so thank you for coming. I hope that you enjoyed this session. Please come and find us. We are here for you, and see you soon.